How's it going, everyone? This is Hao here. In my last video, I launched Project Prime, which is a 12-week personal experiment where I'm taking my training to heal philosophy and putting it to the ultimate test. I'm applying it to my life, learning as I go, and see if it can help me achieve some of my ambitious physical health and fitness goals. And in today's video, we'll be diving deep into the methodology behind the training of Project Prime, the underlying principles, the structure, and the program itself. So after watching today's video, you should have a pretty clear idea of how you can apply a training to heal approach when it comes to your own training. Now, before diving deep, let's recap what the goals of Project Prime are. In the next 12 weeks, in order of priority, I want to achieve 12% body fat, an increase in muscular hypertrophy and strength, an increase in cardiovascular fitness, improved sleep and energy levels, and a reduction in my pain levels, as well as an increase in my mobility. If you want to see a full breakdown of these goals, my baseline measurements, as well as how I plan to measure these changes, check out the Project Prime launch video. I'll have a link in the description below. Now, I've previously spoken about the mindset behind training to heal. That is to drive motivation from a place of self-respect rather than self-hate. But it's so much more than that. The other, perhaps more obvious component of this philosophy is in the name itself. From a physical perspective, first and foremost, we do no harm. That means whilst we're training to get bigger, stronger, and faster, we're ensuring that we always are staying healthy and making sure we're minimizing the risk of injury and burnout. Secondly, we train both smart and hard. This is distinctly different for me from the common saying of train smarter, not harder, because that kind of suggests that you can sort of hack training using smarts so that you don't have to put in the same amount of effort. Train smart and hard means we use an evidence-based approach. And if there's an option to train smarter, for example, if we can do something more efficiently to save time, or we can do it more safely to reduce risk of injury and still get the same results, that's going to be the option that we choose. But it also acknowledges that in order to achieve ambitious goals and maximize our results, this isn't going to be easy. It's not going to be a walk in the park. Ultimately, Train to Heal attempts to find a perfect balance of both an intelligent and hardworking philosophy to training. So I'm a systems and process-driven type of person. When designing Project Prime, I wanted to have a clear set of principles so that if I ever needed to make a decision on something, I could always pressure test against these principles. Principle 1, periodization. Periodization is a systematic way of planning a training program to strategically increase demands on your body. It is a fundamental principle of strength and muscle growth, and one of the smartest ways to train your body to adapt and get stronger. It is essentially our overall plan. Periodization breaks things down into different cycles. There is the macro cycle, the mesocycle, and the microcycle. Each of these cycles will have a different purpose and also a different amount of time associated with it. The macro cycle is the longest and typically lasts an entire year of training. It is the overarching goal and the long-term plan. It includes major phases like your pre-season, in-season, and off-season. For example, the 12-week Project Prime program is a pre-season phase within my macro cycle. The mesocycle is a medium block of training and typically is about 2 to 6 weeks long. Each mesocycle has a single specific training objective, like increasing muscle size, increasing muscle strength, or perhaps increasing muscle power. And lastly is the microcycle, the shorter cycle. This is usually your week of training and details the day-to-day programming of your workouts. This would include the exercises, the sets, and the reps that you're doing each session. So why is this a smart way to train? Firstly, it's important to have a plan. When I first started training, I used to go into the gym and just wander around doing random exercises, pushing myself as hard as I could all the time. This was the perfect recipe for inefficient training and maximizing my risk of injury. Periodization makes you think about the long-term goal. Reverse engineer the steps it will take you to achieve these goals and strategically plan accordingly. And the other thing is, our bodies are really great at becoming more and more efficient the more and more we do them. And that's a really nice way of saying we're really great at being lazy. So if I'm always doing the same workout, with the same muscles, at the same volume, my progress will eventually plateau. So to counter this, we want to keep our bodies guessing. We want to continually challenge our system with different demands, constantly forcing our bodies to adapt, which leads to more consistent strength and performance gains over a period of time. And honestly, if I'm always doing the same workout, I'll get really bored. Periodization prevents mental boredom. By mixing things up, I have something to look forward to each time I work out. Principle 2, progressive overload. With periodization is how to plan a smart and effective training program. Progressive overload is how to progress within the program. It's a systematic way to increase the demand placed on your body over time, thereby forcing it to adapt and get stronger. It's a fundamental principle of strength and muscle growth. Without it, your body would have no reason to change and improve. If the training stimulus were to remain the same, then your body would get to a comfortable maintenance level and stop progressing. You see, by placing the muscles under stress when we're lifting weights, we're creating little micro tears. And then while we rest, our body repairs these micro tears, making our muscles grow bigger and stronger over time. So this is where we're training both smart and hard. In practice, progressive overload is pretty simple. We are just making sure that we're always doing more than we did last time. However, it's important to understand that progressive overload doesn't mean that we're just always adding more weight to the bar. That's what the ego wants. Training smarter means that we look at multiple ways to increase the demands on our muscles. This could mean adding a repetition to a set, increasing the total volume of work, reducing rest time between sets, or improving on the technique of the lift itself. Each time we train, we're pushing ourselves to do better. Principle 3, consistency over intensity. When I first started training, because I didn't know any better, I would always go all out. Every workout, I'd try to lift as heavy as I could, as hard as I could, and as fast as I could. And you know what happened? The next day, my body would be absolutely destroyed. Everything would be so sore that I could barely move, let alone go to the gym. And it would take about a week before my body would recover and that I could go again. So that all or nothing approach was really a direct path to burnout and injury. There's this thing called the rate of perceived exertion, and it's commonly referred to by its acronym, the RPE. And what the RPE is a way to measure the amount of effort when training. The way it works is a scale of 1 to 10, with 10 being the maximum amount of repetitions that you can do for a certain exercise at a given weight when you give it your absolute all. RPE 9 means you're doing 1 rep less than your max, and RPE 8 is 2 less, and so on and so forth. So for example, let's say if I really pushed myself to the absolute limit, I could bench press 80 kilos for 13 reps. So my RPE for that lift would be 10. RPE 9 would have been 12 reps, and RPE 8 would have been 11 reps. So if I tried to hit an RPE of 10 for every set, every exercise, every workout, just like when I started training, I destroy my body and take a really long time to recover between each workout. For Project Prime, the RPE goal for most of the program is going to be RPE 8, leaving 2 reps in the tank. So why is this a smarter way to train? Well, this is where the principle of consistency over intensity comes in. By training with an RPE of 8, it means that my body can recover in time to hit the same body part twice, maybe even 3 times a week. An RPE of 10 would likely restrict me to once per week, since I'll need more time to recover. Now going back to my example, if I'm doing 4 sets of 80 kilogram bench press at an RPE of 10 with 13 reps each, that's 52 reps of 80 kilos per week. Compare that to doing 4 sets at RPE 8 with 11 reps each, but doing it twice per week, that's 88 reps of 80 kilograms per week. With this approach, I'm doing an extra 36 reps. So by reducing intensity, I can increase my consistency and my total overall volume. And there's one more benefit. Training intensely is, well, really intense. By pushing ourselves to the limit, more often than not, we aren't lifting with control and our overall form will suffer. This means that there's a greater risk that you could hurt yourself, and trust me, there is nothing like an injury to really mess up your program. So that's why I believe in prioritizing consistency over intensity. Over time, I've learned that consistent, moderate effort is more sustainable and effective in the long run than a few sporadic max effort sessions. Principle 4, form over ego. The last principle incorporates everything that we've been speaking about. It prioritizes quality technique over lifting heavy weight. So, public service announcement. Unless you are the mountain that rides, literally half Thor himself, the strongest man in the world, no one, not your parents, not your friends, and most importantly, not the hot girl at the gym, cares about how much you lift. Now, don't get me wrong, I love hitting a personal best. When all the training and progressive overloading culminates in me lifting a heavier weight that I previously couldn't, it is a literal indication that I have improved and become a better version of myself. But not at the potential risk of injury and derailing my entire program because my ego is too big. So this is why form over ego is important. It is a direct rejection of ego lifting, where the only focus is on moving the heaviest weight possible, no matter how bad your technique is. And guess what? It's also a smarter approach, because by having impeccable technique, we can leverage the part of the lift that has the highest potential to grow muscle, the eccentric part. When it comes to muscle contractions, there are three parts: the concentric, isometric, and eccentric. Let's take a bicep curl for example. For the entire time that you are holding the weight and performing the lift, you are contracting your bicep. The concentric phase is as you curl the muscle towards you, the bicep is shortening. The isometric phase is when the muscle is contracting with no movement. That's the brief moments when you're holding at the top and at the bottom of the lift. Now, the eccentric contraction is the part of the lift where the muscle is lengthening. Going back to our bicep curl example, this is when we are lowering the weight back down. We are still contracting the bicep to control the descent, but because the muscle is lengthening at the same time, there is a higher chance that we can cause the micro tears in the muscle that we want, so that it builds more muscle, thereby making us bigger and stronger. So not only does having good technique reduce the chance of injury, it also potentially increases our chance that our muscles will grow. It's a win-win situation, a smart choice indeed. So now that we've established our principles, let's talk about what this actually looks like in practice. I present to you the Project Prime training program. This is a 12-week program focusing on priming my physical health and fitness to reach peak levels. This is after my 6-month outdoor soccer in-season program, where the focus was on maximizing performance on the field. Project Prime is a part of my macro cycle during the pre-season to maximize both my performance and aesthetics. During these 12 weeks, we have 3 mesocycles of 4 weeks each. The first is a focus on muscle hypertrophy, the second is strength, and the third is conditioning and aesthetics. For each of these weeks, I will apply a different intensity technique for my exercises. Week 1 will be drop sets, week 2 will be myo rep sets, week 3 will be myo rep match sets, and week 4 will be a dedicated deload week. I'll go further into detail on these techniques later in the video. Now I know what you're thinking, what does this all mean? So let's take the first mesocycle, the hypertrophy cycle, as an example. Firstly, given this is the first phase and the focus is hypertrophy, I'm prioritizing overall volume, meaning lifting more reps of a lighter weight rather than lifting lower reps of a heavier weight. We will do 4 sets of each exercise, and the rep range we are aiming for will be between 12 to 20 reps for all exercises. This is periodization in action. We're defining a clear plan and purpose of our mesocycle. Now, to progressively overload our muscles, the goal will be to do more reps at the same weight for a given exercise each week. For example, if I did 12 reps of 10 kilos for a lateral raise in week 1, in week 2, I will aim to do at least 13 reps at the same weight. Week 3, I will aim to improve on that number again. Our third principle is consistency over intensity. The goal here is to train the muscles as often as possible, which means as soon as they recover and can be trained again with minimal risk of injury or burnout, we go again. So the plan is to split training into a classic push-pull legs split. To do this twice per week, making it 6 sessions in total. And you can imagine with this many sessions, if I'm pushing myself every single session at 10 RPE, it's not going to be sustainable. And you might be wondering, what does push-pull legs or PPL mean? Well, push means the muscles of your body that do pushing motions. So that's typically your chest, your shoulders, and your triceps. Pull would be your back and bicep muscles, and your legs are your legs. By splitting up my training sessions into these muscle groups, it means that I allow at least 2 days of recovery in between sessions, which should be sufficient time for those muscles to recover by the time I'm doing another session and working those muscles again. Before we continue, I'd like to shout out Dr. Mike Israetel. He's a bodybuilder and exercise physiologist with a huge following on YouTube. His channel's called Renaissance Periodisation. A lot of what I know and what I'm putting into practice at the moment comes from his teachings. So if you haven't before, I highly encourage you to check out his channel. Lastly, our fourth principle of form over ego is to focus on excellent technique for every rep over lifting as heavy as possible. In particular, the focus is to control the eccentric contraction and really lean into the stretch on the muscle. Without great form, not only is the risk of injury greater, it's just really difficult to perform if the weight is excessive. Now, I mentioned some intensity techniques before, so let's cover those too. Typically, when you're doing an exercise, you have a set number of sets and a set number of repetitions. Once you're done with those, you're finished with your exercise. Very standard. But this is Project Prime, so we want to spice things up a little bit. So I introduced to you intensity techniques. These are a variation on how you can perform a set so that you can really get the most out of your training. Drop set. A drop set is when you do a set of your exercise at the chosen weight for the target rep range. Once you have done that, instead of finishing your set, you immediately do another set of the same exercise at a weight that is about 20 to 30% less than what you just did. You aim to do as many reps as possible, and once you are finished with this lower weight, you then do another set of the same exercise at a weight that is another 20 to 30% less. You can keep going until you reach 0, but for Project Prime, we will apply the drop set to the last set, the fourth of each exercise, and do 3 drop sets each. For example, this is my fourth set of seated chest flies. I do my reps for this set, and as soon as I have finished, I drop the weight down and do another set at this lower weight. Again, once I've finished this set, I drop the weight down and repeat this again for all 3 of my drop sets. Myo rep sets. Myo rep sets are when you perform a set of an exercise for your targeted rep range, rest for about 3 to 5 seconds, and then try and do as many reps as you can of the same exercise at the same weight again. You then rest another 3 to 5 seconds and go again. You can keep doing this until you can't anymore, but for Project Prime, myo rep sets will be performed on the last set of each exercise and stopped once I can't do 2 or more myo reps for each myo rep set. In this example, I'm finishing my final set of seated machine rows. Once I've performed my reps for the exercise, I rest 3 to 5 seconds and I can do 4 more reps. These are the myo reps. I then rest another 3 to 5 seconds and do another myo rep set. I keep going until I can't do 2 or more myo reps. And lastly, we have myo rep match sets. Not to be confused with myo rep sets, myo rep match sets takes the amount of reps you can perform for your first set of an exercise and aims for you to match that amount in your subsequent sets by performing myo reps until you reach the target amount. For example, if I was doing a cable tricep pushdown and on my first set, I was able to do 15 reps at 20 kilos, then on my second set, I could only do 13 reps. I would then rest for 3 to 5 seconds and aim to do 2 myo reps so that I can match the 15 reps of my first set. Similarly, if on my third set I could only do 10 reps, then I'll rest 3 to 5 seconds and maybe I can only do 3 myo reps. Need another 3 to 5 seconds to rest again and then do 2 more myo reps so I match the 15 reps in total that's required. And I continue doing this until all my sets have matched the reps performed in the first set. So you can see that while I've prioritized training smart, we're still training hard and at times intensely. For Project Prime, I've just tried to find the right balance between training hard and intensely with a really smart approach. I'm maximizing my potential results and a chance to achieve my ambitious goals whilst minimizing the risk of injury and burnout. To me, this is the essence of training to heal. So we've covered quite a bit today, and I hope you found something valuable from this breakdown. This entire training program is only one pillar of Project Prime. In the upcoming videos on this channel, I'll be diving deep into my nutrition and health protocols. If you want to follow along with the complete and full journey and see how these principles deliver results, make sure you subscribe to the channel and hit that notification bell. And please leave a comment if you have any questions about the training program. I'd love to hear them. I'm Hao, I'm training to heal. I'll see you in the next one. Cheers.